Good afternoon and happy Friday on this beautiful Friday the 13th here on board the Sparrow, Carolina 250 on Santa Barbara's Marina 1. We are here for the third episode of On Deck with Maestro. It's been a while, I guess. We did a couple of episodes and then there was opera and there was Christmas and then it was raining. So here we are. My guest today is a very, very old friend, one of my favorite collaborators, and one of the creators in the opera field that I admire the most. Josh Shaw, he started out as a singer. I remember we met 26 years ago at opera in the Ozarks, where he came in as a baritone and exited as a tenor.
Yes.
I had the unique pleasure of playing his first opera scene as a tenor, which was Lenz Caesar from Eugene Onegin.
That's correct.
And 26 years later, we reunited probably about maybe 20 years later, or a little bit less than 20 years later. Found out he had relocated to Los Angeles and he had started his own opera company. So when I came here to Santa Barbara, he was of the Pacific Opera Project. His company was already up and running. And it's one of the greatest success stories in small opera company. I think Pop is writing its own very unique chapter in the history of opera in America. And we'll talk about that in just a minute. And Josh is here in Santa Barbara staging our production of Caesar and Cleopatra by Handel. They're in rehearsals already, and we will also talk about that a little bit later. Welcome, Josh Shaw.
Thanks.
So as I was saying, Josh is an amazingly creative artist. He's also an amazingly savvy business person. He's built this amazing company down in LA that this year celebrates its 15th anniversary. It's a unique opera company. It has a very distinct brand. It's probably the most entertaining shows you will ever see on the opera stage. And I'm going to start by asking Josh, what's it feel like that your baby is 15 years old?
I can't believe. I mean, it's crazy. It's like that, you know. I never thought past the first show, really, when we did it, and then here we are, I don't know, 60 productions later or something like that. Wow. And it just rolling forward. It's just going to keep going. Feels good. I mean, these are all aspirations I never had. They just came together, and I always say you got to do something for a living, so might as well do.
So what? You say you hadn't envisioned all this from the beginning. So what did you start out to do?
Really just to give my friends in LA or my colleagues in LA a better experience. I was in a lot of shows at that time. I sang in LA a lot with the small companies, and some shows would be something you could be proud of, but a lot of them were just incredible time waste and talent waste. The people way talented than I was, more talented than I was. Just sitting around in rehearsal for hours doing nothing, or showing up and there's no costume on the day of the show, or the set falls over, or stuff like that. And I was just, I found myself doing so much stuff behind the scenes to make the shows I was in better, right. Whether that was helping with marketing or building the set or whatever, providing my own costumes. At one point it was just like, it might be easier just to go from scratch, and had a couple colleagues at the time that had different skills, and so we decided to try it out, and it worked, and then we just kept going.
What was your first show?
Well, the first show was before Pop. It was a precursor of Pop, a company called Pacific Coast Opera, based down in Long Beach, and it was we did a gala, and then we did a really nice, very traditional Traviata in Long Beach and in Santa Monica. And then that company didn't quite work out. There was differences of opinion of, like, for me it was
in opera.
I know. For me it was always like, if we do this is not a company for us to sing in. This is a company for us to produce, and if we want to direct or conduct or whatever your other passions are in this, and we didn't see eye to eye on that. So after doing everything, the 501c3, getting people interested, having a really successful show, we were left with, I think, $3,000 or something after that. And
Well, at least you didn't end up in debt.
yeah, it's better than where we started.
I know. Which has also been, I think has also been. I'm going to talk about that a little bit about your business model, but it's something that it keeps happening.
It keeps going.
Yeah.
So the music director Stephen Carr at the time, and his wife, and my future wife, then ex-wife, sat down and said, "Well, do we want to keep going?" And we said yes, and rounded up some money. And then the real first pop show was Trouble in Tahiti, which still one of my favorite shows to this day.
Why is that? Why is the opera or that particular production or both?
Both, but I just think it's such a good look at American, a normal couple in America.
A lot of people would say that is a rather cynical assessment.
Yeah.
It's not exactly uplifting, is it?
No, but there's tons of comedy to be had.
Yeah.
You know, so that's another thing I love about it. It's got comedy and just heart-wrenching, you know.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, in that sense, it's sort of like the final act of La Boheme, where the ending is so heart-wrenching because like the last 10 minutes are so heart-wrenching because the previous 15 minutes have been so hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, that's why Boheme, you know, I've done Boheme so many times, especially at Pop.
Right.
And we do it so comic all the way right up to the ending. And, you know, especially like 2018, 2017, like those were like everything seems easy in retrospect back then, right?
Yeah.
People were coming to all your shows and like, so we're getting all these people coming to Boheme that had never even heard of La Boheme. They just heard something fun was going on in the neighborhood. It was super cheap. There was wine flowing everywhere. And, you know.
will show up for wine.
Yeah, so they will. And so we would get to the Act 4, and you know, some very serious lines would be said, super titles, and you would hear like giggles and stuff because people had no idea a tragedy was coming. No idea, which is amazing. If I could, you know, think about that. It's a question I put down to maybe talk to you about. But, you know, the longer I'm in this, the harder it is to step back in those shoes 15 years ago where I felt so much more like just a normal audience member.
Right.
You know, where I thought I could just identify like what would get this random person off the street to the opera. I'm so deep in it now, you know, it's hard to step back and look. But
well, that's one of I think that's one of the major achievements of pop, which I mean, you can correct me if this is not what you think. But the great thing about, I mean, pop brand, as I've known it since I came here to California, is a company that mostly produces traditional repertoire, but always with an innovative angle, with a healthy measure of irreverence. Mm-hmm. And the target audience is people who don't go to the opera. Yeah. I mean, you have a great following among opera lovers as well. Yeah. But it seems to me that you're still producing. It's almost like it's opera for people who don't like opera. And there's myriad other things. Obviously, your producing style. Everything is just so innovative. So what I wanted to ask you is, you know, when I came here 10 years ago, I feel that I'm sure the pop brand has evolved since, but in a way, it also felt fully developed. It's like the pop identity and brand. I mean, your audience is growing, your artistic ambition and sort of research keeps expanding, but the pop identity, you know, those big glasses that you're wearing and your logo with Puccini wearing big glasses has been there. So my question is, was that brand there from the beginning 15 years ago? Is that something that sort of come out of your head like Athena out of the head of Zeus? Or is it something that you sort of, even if you didn't have it clear on your mind, was kind of where you knew the thing is going to go, or does it evolve?
It definitely evolved, and it was very organic. And now it's carefully protected. Now we are always saying, is this on brand, or this isn't on brand? How do we like tweak it so it is on brand? But in the early days, I mean, most of our success, I think, is due to if people like something, I gave them more of that. You know, if they liked a silly update that used a TV show, I did another one like that. And, you know, and then added things along the way. And, people liked this venue. Well, we're definitely going back to that venue. So I think it's just as simple as seeing what people like and providing that. Don't try to. I hate when we do occasionally try to force, a project I want to do or something that just really makes sense, but is out of our wheelhouse, and generally has worked. But we have, our core is always going to be this kind of updated.
It seems to me that this approach of paying close attention to your audience and really measuring your success and evolving based on the audience's reaction and growing together with your audience is not necessarily the default attitude in this business. Coincidentally, I was listening to a new podcast by Tony Barreza and Tony Zancanella from Opera Southwest this morning. We're talking about Aida, and talking about Verdi, said Tony, who is one of the best read. Tony Barreza is one of the most well-read people in the industry. He said Verdi wanted to produce operas for the audience, and the audience reaction is what he cared about. If an opera didn't go over well, he just gave up on it.
Yeah.
He didn't blame anybody else. If the audience doesn't like it, well, it must not be good.
Yeah.
But the opera industry doesn't generally work that way, does it?
No. And it just baffles me that some places continue to be successful producing opera that seemingly not many people want to see.
Right.
But there are many companies out there who have been around for forever doing that, and I'm baffled by how that works, because it is the furthest thing from what I want to hear an audience clap and laugh or cry.
Yeah.
That's what I want.
Once you told me that sometimes your shows actually paid for their expenses from ticket sales.
I know, and it just happened with Abduction. We were able to turn a small profit on that. It's hard now. The bigger you get, the harder it is. But that's why we were successful in the beginning, because we never spent more than we had,
right.
Or never even thought of spending more than we had, and we just grew slowly. It just meant we kind of grew a little slower than I wanted,
right.
But we're still, of course we want to be bigger, but it's also difficult for us because I think a big part of what people like about pop is the physical closeness.
Proximity, yeah.
So, and the numbers just don't work. They just don't work with 300 seats.
Yeah.
If you're going to have a real orchestra and a real chorus, and that means you have to do 7 shows instead of doing one night in
right.
a 2,000 seat venue. So that's a big challenge for us right now, and that has made us rely more on philanthropy.
Well, and you will. I mean, I think you can't do opera in the United States or anywhere for that matter as a commercial enterprise. I mean, I think if it was possible, somebody would be doing
right,
it.
Exactly.
But I mean, I think the idea of growing, and I think the responsible growth and staying in touch with your audience. I mean, there's another smaller opera company that is very, very near and dear to my heart that I admire greatly is Union Avenue Opera in St. Louis. That reminds me of Pop. It's a different, the approach to the production style and the artistic vision is different, but it's also a company that is extremely successful, and I think part of the success is that they just refuse the temptation to get bigger.
Yeah.
At least that's my outside observation. I have
what
not heard it
like.
from anybody over there.
Yeah.
So I think playing to your strengths and really, it's the audience that really matters overall. I mean, in no job as an artistic or general director, you'll be able to do everything you ever wanted. I mean, I doubt that the intendant of Vienna State Opera realized all of their dreams.
Yeah, I mean that was I remember a conversation in our second year, just a casual conversation amongst the founders and maybe a board member or two, and I remember distinctly saying, well, Pop never needs to be a place that's paying like a singer $10,000 a night to do a show. I mean, that's just not who I want to be working with.
You pay less than?
Slightly less than that. Yeah. Because I love working with up and coming singers. I mean, that's who I love to hang out with. That's who I love to promote. They're the most fun. They're so grateful for the opportunity, and so I'm fine with us never I never want to compete with LA Opera. They do a great job of what they do. So,
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think you are almost filling a gap in terms of an audience need and the production style and the vision of the art form that a large international opera company cannot service.
Can't do,
I mean,
yeah. Yeah.
big companies can't produce on a small scale. That's not what they're built to do.
No.
And I think that's that's why you've been so successful in LA. I know that LA Times loves you. And you were one of the country's 30 top music professionals
Yeah.
by Apple. What was that?
Musical America.
From Musical America.
That was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but there's a lot of discussion out there. You read a lot in the newspapers, and people forward me articles and this and that about what's going on. There seems to be this impression out there. There's a lot of doomsday talk about opera, and you read about famous people retiring or quitting their jobs and having saying that things are not going well, or you hear the Met, the country's flagship house is laying off people and it's going to auction off their artwork and things like that, and so there's for a lot of our fans, they're wondering out there what's happening. Is everybody who's like, is our opera company endangered? Or what's happened to the art form? Is the art form die? There's all that discussion that will just not go away.
Yeah.
How's your experience compared to that?
I mean, the same exact experience you're having. People send me those articles all the time, and for me, it's just nothing new. Like, this is maybe because news is so easily accessible now.
Right.
Maybe people are just hearing about this, but we've been hearing that since before I started doing this, and all through, and the recession. Oh, it's all. Here we are.
Do you think opera is dying?
Yeah, I mean, it's been dying for 300 years, I guess. No, I don't think so. Of course, I would love to see. It would be my dream to wake up one day and opera's like the entertainment again. But I think we're a long way from that. But I do think there is a world where it becomes the cool retro thing to do. I do think that's very possible in my lifetime. That I always say in LA, all it takes is for 3 celebrities to come to a pop show. Boom. Sold out for years. That's all it would take for someone who's cool to say this is cool on repeat a couple times. That's all it would take. Because it is cool. It is fun. People have such a great time, and they're so moved, and they've never seen anything like it before. So...
But I'd like to clarify, though, for those who did not know pop, is that's not what made pop cool. I mean, you haven't relied on celebrities. It's not like I don't even know, with the big entertainment names on TV or the movies. It's not like somebody on their evening show, the night show, they said, "Oh wow, this is really cool opera company." I said, the cool is homegrown. I mean, you
word of mouth.
guys are the cool.
Yeah, it's word of mouth. Of people come and they want to tell their friends,
right,
and they want to bring somebody back, and so we just keep trying to maintain that.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, speaking of opera being the top entertainment, there was one time when that was the case, and that was the Baroque time, the 18th century.
Uh-huh.
And we happened to doing this little ditty here that belongs to that tradition. We're doing Caesar and Cleopatra, which is a new adaptation created by you and our conductor Emily Centuria, of Handel's, some consider magnum opus Giulio Cesare, which is, or if you do the whole thing, it's about 4 hours long, but we'll cut it down to about 2 hours.
Yeah.
And you just started rehearsals. So what? You've done some Baroque,
some, but very little.
But
I've
not a lot.
La Callisto, which is early Baroque,
right?
And then the
Vivaldi.
Yeah, Ercole. Those are the two I've done.
How would you say is Baroque opera different in terms of producing it, understanding it, and marketing it?
So in every way, it's, as a director, it's scary. I would love to say, oh, you can do, it's so cool because you have so much freedom to do whatever. But the fact is, they're saying, if you're lucky, 2 sentences in a 6-minute aria.
Right.
So it's a matter of how do you fill 6 minutes with 15 seconds of text. One way is to cut it, which we've done plenty of in this one. And then, there really is endless possibility for updating a lot of these things if you're willing to like turn an eye here or fudge something here. But for me, it was kind of the beauty of Baroque opera. It was just spectacular. I know you guys have been pushing Farinelli. That's like one of the movies that made me fall in love with opera.
Right.
Seeing just the scale of, especially what they were able to do in 300 years ago without electronics, without lights. So it's always, so far, I've wanted to kind of, do my best to make it look somewhat authentic.
Yeah, I mean, I had some contact with Handel's work when I was a student in Boston many years ago, but I don't think I ever saw a Handel opera until I was an apprentice at Virginia Opera, and they were doing Rodelinda.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that just captured me at that point was that, well, first of all, the music and the virtuosity of the vocalism.
Okay.
But it's just the unabashed showmanship.
Yeah.
There's no apology.
Yeah.
So it's okay to sing the same two lines
Yeah.
for 6 minutes if you sing it well, and if every time you sing it, it's better than the previous
Yeah.
one. And also when I watch Farinelli, I mean, talk about over the top. I mean, this is, Pink Floyd don't have anything over the Baroque opera productions.
Yeah. It's crazy. And I mean, but that's it. The music is king. And
Right.
I'm more than happy to let that take center stage. In this production, it is.
I watched the halftime show at the Super Bowl the other day with Bad Bunny.
Yeah.
I mean, that showmanship and that
Yeah.
the craziness of it all. I mean, that's very Baroque to me.
Yeah, it is. I mean, yeah, that's why I'm saying, like, I think there is a world where people suddenly get, the general populace starts getting more interested in opera because there's just nothing else like it.
Yeah.
It's unique.
And another way that I want to hear more about, and I want our friends to hear more about, when you and I got together about putting together this piece about a year ago. Well, this piece is, if you watch it on YouTube, it's usually some sort of either updated or abstract version.
Yeah.
And you and I discussed it, and part in producing Baroque, there's always a challenge: is a traditional aesthetic going to you do a traditional bohème, and but that was only like 120 years ago. You go to an aesthetic where the thing is ancient Egypt that nobody knows anything about anyway. It's harder to relate, and then you superimpose this this art form that's very stylized, and it's all about show and show off. And then is it gonna look weird if you try to do it? And you were steadfast from the beginning. No, we're doing traditional.
Yeah.
Yes, we're doing. I said, what about the costuming? Maybe the costuming. I said, no, we're doing traditional. So tell me all about that. And it's going to be spectacular. We'll get to this in just a minute. But tell me about why you were so adamant about sticking to the traditional with this one.
Well,
which is really not traditional. Is actually not. It is. The story is in the period. It's actually the traditional thing is to update it.
I mean, I think that was part of it. I mean, I'm the update guy, right? I update everything.
Right.
But in doing my research and seeing famous productions out there, nobody's doing it in period. I mean, you have to go back to like 1985 to find like a major production on video that's where they're in full-blown Baroque costumes and all that. And so, part of it is just like, well, I don't want to do something everyone else is doing,
Right.
And they always kind of end up looking the same to me. They always end up with like guys in fatigues and Secret Service agents and projections and harsh lighting, and that's just not my aesthetic at all. So, and I knew the cast we had for this, and they're super talented and very handsome and pretty people, so they can certainly pull off the look. and it just, I don't know, it didn't speak to me at all. So I didn't even pursue it very far. To be honest, this opera intimidated me. Like, I don't know why you asked me to do this. It's out of my wheelhouse, but thank you. And I just, maybe I'm just a control freak. I don't know, but I wanted to know.
Opera artistic director, they're never control freaks, right?
I just really wanted to know the playground I'd be working on.
Right.
That's the set, right? And I didn't want to show what I'm in this weird situation that I run my own company and I design and build all the sets there. And then, a lot of places I work, I have pretty big say in the design and all that.
Well, you're a producing director. You're not just here's a set, put the scenes on
so
it.
the couple of times I have just shown up and there was just a set, half the time it was not what I was told it would be. Nothing worked, or it was in the wrong place. And I just, with something I wanted to be so careful with and so prepared for, I just thought it's better if I just design it. Then by the way my brain works, by the time I build the set, the show's blocked in my head.
Right.
So I could either sit there with a computer and a piece of paper for 80 hours, or I could be building a set and thinking for 80 hours.
Right.
So I'm very glad I did. It's big. It's big. So the set is basically a turntable. It's originally designed 24 feet by 24 feet square, and rotates in the middle. It's all on wheels, which I've never done before, so sure hope it works.
How else will you rotate?
So we have what it does. I wanted to keep the show, it's 4 hours long if you do it uncut, right? So
Right.
I want to keep the show just moving, just like I don't want to take time. And there's a million scene shifts if you were to do this totally traditional. So I thought this would be a way to we finish a scene, the set rotates, we're in the next scene. No time. I mean, we'll see. We won't know till we're in there, but it seems like it's going to work. So we have a Cleopatra Palace side, we have a garden side, we have a Ptolemy side, and we have like a rocky cliff side. And they just rotate. Now in rehearsal, I'm thinking of, ways of actually moving the set during some of the numbers so that it has that movement too. But
Right.
I think it's going to work.
I think it's a brilliant idea. The photos that I've seen, I'm super stoked
Thanks.
to see it. I know it's going to be a brutal tech week.
We'll see.
Helena has warned me about that.
Yeah. It does create some problems in terms of lighting, especially because it's always different.
It has like a 12-foot balcony or something.
Yeah, it's 12 feet tall.
Yeah.
13 feet tall.
Yeah.
Way up there.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. No, I think it's brilliant, and I've only produced one Baroque opera in my time here, which was Emily. And although we did create our own production, it was the concept was brought in from Pittsburgh. So it was not from scratch, and it was shorter. And we did it mostly with projections, which is a completely different style. And so I want to do the piece. I wanted you to direct it. I wanted these singers, and I wanted this conductor, but I had no idea how we're going to do it. But I do remember, some of us who are old enough would remember the times when you'd go see an opera, and then you just wait for 5 minutes while the curtain comes down, and all you hear in the back is like. So in that modern audiences just won't go for that. And I think this is it's also very not unlike the challenge with our next show, Elmer Gantry, that is very musical theater, and Baroque is actually very musical theater in that sense. Like you go to Broadway, set changes every 5 minutes. I mean, you change hemispheres within the same song, and you're back.
It's amazing.
And it's not like Trovatore. You put a set down, you sing in front of it for about 45 minutes. They take 20 minutes. Put another set, sing.
Nice butterfly, one set.
Exactly.
Every time I get a butterfly, I'm like, thank God.
All right. So now it's your turn to ask me a question.
One question?
Oh, two. Whatever.
Well, okay.
I mean, you know how that goes.
So I wanted to ask.
Make it count.
2 questions.
Okay.
I put down a couple other, but the 2 I want to ask are about how you choose your shows here, because I think it's certainly going to be interesting. I'm sure it's completely different than the way I choose shows. I choose shows based on venue mostly.
Right.
What venue do I have and what works there? You're at the same venue
Right.
all the time, so you have, you know, I feel like you have the whole book open and you could do anything. So how do you purposely try to vary the periods? How do you pick them?
Well, I come from, unlike you, who sort of, you created your own company, so you basically reinvented the business model. I come from a fairly traditional opera company background.
Yeah.
I've had the good fortune to work briefly at a couple of the major houses, and I've had quite a bit of experience in regional opera. And so my approach is as someone who is so your traditional regional opera approach. What is you look at the programming, and again, I remember the company was here a long time before I got here. So you are honored by given charge of a brand that has proved resilient and successful, and you see which of those elements of the brand are more sustainable or going to become more exciting. What things do you change and what things do you leave alone? And always with in mind that this company is for Santa Barbara. We're doing shows here to entertain and inspire our audience in Santa Barbara. We're not doing shows. The company is not here for me to do my favorite projects. And certainly we're not here to do projects that impress halfway across the country. This is about, it's staying in close touch with your audience, entertain, inspire, and sometimes challenge, but I think all within reason. So my first tenet of my regional opera programming philosophy, unless there's some opera companies who are an exception to this, and when I say regional, I mean small, like what Opera America calls level 3 or something. Is especially when you are alone in a fairly large geographic area. I mean, we are the only full-time opera company between LA and San Francisco. That's a lot of people. So, and it is also consistent with the company's history that we curate and present amazing performances of the classics. Because if we don't, all these people between LA and San Francisco will never see them. There's going to be a generation of people who never saw a Bohème because they don't live anywhere, because or maybe they will see one somewhere, but it won't be very good. So in that sense, I still have the old school mentality that a regional company like this is only as good as its last Bohème and its last Carmen. So that we have to do the classics. We're gonna do at least one every year, and we're gonna really take every effort and every pain to make sure it's really amazing. I also think that next to the big time classics, and you don't just recycle the top 10. I mean, you get to, we haven't done a actual top 10, and except the Magic Figure last year, we haven't done a top 10 since Butterfly. Wow. And well, we did Carmen too. Then a repertoire that I learned to love since I started working at Tulsa Opera, beginning of my career, that my boss, Cal Crawford at the time, felt very strongly about, is what she called the secondary classics. Works that are from the same tradition, dramatic, musical, but they are not marquee names. They're not household names. Like when it comes to Verdi, people know Traviata, Rigoletto, Aida. That's it. The other pieces are either not very well known or too big for regional operas to stage. So then you put in a Trovatore, or you put in an Attila, or you put something like that. That's what I mean by a secondary classic, or so much French opera that is absolutely amazing, or things like, Wagner would probably throw a lightning on me if I say this, but for our audiences, Wagner is secondary classics. It's not. you know, it's not Traviata, it's
Yeah.
not Bohème.
Yeah.
So we did a couple of installments of the Jonathan Dobbs adaptation of Das Rheingold.
Right.
And so last year we did Trovatore. This year we're doing Giulio Cesare, which is Baroque, in my opinion, is still secondary classics. Audiences love it because people who come to the opera for the first time love it because it's great theater and great music. And they don't know that it's not Bohème.
Yeah. Yeah.
People who have seen a lot of Bohèmes love to see this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think the music is, singers love to sing it.
Yeah.
And I think it's just, so each season there's a classic, there's a secondary classic, and almost every season there's a contemporary piece. We did that, I sort of considered it an article of mission to program an American opera every year. I used to say, you know, an American opera company should be producing at least one American opera every year. I achieved that for a few years here with the support of our board and our audience. And then we came to the point where I don't feel that I have anything to prove anymore. So I don't consider it mandatory. So last year we didn't have one.
Yeah.
This year we do, and next year we will, which the season will be announced not long from now. But I think, so that's kind of my thinking about this. I think we need to present the classics both for the people who know them and love them, and both for the people who've never seen it. And that's why my general approach is, when you produce the classics, you do them the classic way. Because if some person is going to see one Bohème their entire lifetime, they should see the real McCoy.
The real thing.
Secondary classics, and which is also my personal, that's the stuff that I perhaps love the best and I'd like to do more, is always on the mix. And of course contemporary, especially if it's a work that, and again the contemporary works for me are just a different way of engaging the audience, a different way of bringing people who, some people will just not go see a show that's 200 years old, people speaking Italian.
Yeah.
But it also has to be accessible and has to be entertainment. This is not a matter of making a stand of modernity or innovation. It's just entertaining and engaging the audience in a different way.
Well, that leads to my next question. And you could speak your opinion on it, and then specifically to Opera Santa Barbara. Do you think musicals should be produced by opera companies?
I have no idea. I don't see why not. The reason why, I mean, I'm not from here, as you know, so I didn't grow up with musicals. I mean, yeah, we saw Singing in the Rain in the movies, right, on TV or whatever, but I didn't grow up with musicals. I have enormous love for classic musical theater. I've produced a couple of them, and I found them extremely difficult.
They are difficult.
So
I know.
It's not what I necessarily feel that I do best. So we haven't. That doesn't mean we're never going to do one, but I haven't gone there yet at Opera Santa Barbara. I see no. I think opera companies should do what works for their audiences. They should make sustainable business decisions. In other words, a one-off every once in a while is, but just don't. Make sure you maintain an identity.
Yeah.
If doing musicals is part of your brand, part of your identity, I mean, you do Gilbert and Sullivan all the time.
All the time.
It's part of the pop brand.
Yeah.
So you do Bohème and you do Gilbert and Sullivan, which some people say, well, that's opera, that's music. But also, who knows what's opera and what's music theater, right? The best definition I've ever heard is a friend of mine used to say, anything that opera singers sing is opera. So at least you can have a definition there. Otherwise, it's like our next show, Elmer Gantry. It's an opera because why is it an opera? Because it's written for trained opera singers, because it requires opera technique to sing, and because the composer started out to write an opera and he wrote an opera.
Yeah.
But when you experience it, it's not very different from why is that? And so, opera is a subcategory of music theater.
Right.
So when we say here music theater, we generally mean American music theater, which is our indigenous version of opera.
Yeah.
I think the reason why American opera is thriving, the reason why the overwhelming majority of operas being written today, and most or all of the good ones are being written in the United States, is because American opera composers are building on the traditional music theater. Started with Carlisle Floyd. I think Jake Heggie is kind of we owe Jake a lot for shaping opera, and that's why American opera is so successful, because it borrows some of the ethos and some of the intent and some of the brightness and clarity of American music theater.
Yeah, I think so. For me, it's just a question of, can we do it well? You know, there are companies that do it so well, and we're not used to using microphones, and sometimes when you don't use microphones, you can't tell what anyone's saying.
Yeah, I mean, you have used microphones.
We
because
have.
You do outdoor
we do
shows.
outdoors, yeah. But you know, even when you're talking about classic Sondheim stuff, if you're doing that inside, it's real hard to do without microphones.
Yeah, it probably is. Yeah, and I think it's for me. It's also because it's what you said. I kind of would do it well. Well, obviously, especially if there's dialogue. Yeah. I mean, you have the right singers, the right orchestra. Maybe the musical numbers, you'll be okay. But all that talk. Now, having said that, I mean, Frank Lesser never used them. Who is, I think, one of America's most underrated composers.
For sure.
I think when we do a musical here, the first one we're going to do is going to be Frank Lesser, because it's just an amazing composer.
Most happy fella.
Huh?
Most happy fella.
Most Happy Fella, or what's the other? Guys and Dolls. Yeah.
Opera Santa Barbara does Guys and Dolls.
Hey, listen, I'm planning on sticking around here for a while. We have to mix it up a bit. But yeah, I mean, if you read about Frank Lesser, he had no use for mics. He had during the rehearsals of Most Happy Fella, he had a sign on the wall that said "Loud is good." He was a prankster. He was a curious cat. It was pretty amazing. So, but reality is, yes, you're probably going to have to mic some of the things if you're doing a music theater. And for me, just because of me, I'm like kind of a purebred classical musician. The idea of relinquishing control of what what the sound is to the sound engineer, as much as I love J.O. Davis. At Lobero, I feel it's my responsibility to shape the sound. It's like you're handing over half of your job to somebody else. So I don't know, but again, I realize that my attitude is problematic, and I will adjust my attitude when it's time to do musical.
That's also a question of, you know, the thing we would always say is you do that so they'll come and see your Carmen next. But I'm not sure the evidence shows that those people come back and
I wouldn't know. I don't know the data. I mean, I know that San Francisco Opera for a long time had a very successful run in adding a big time musical to their season, and other major companies tried the same thing, but it didn't work as well financially or whatever. I don't know exactly how that works, but I think when you asked me earlier, I'm interested in, as the company is growing and as our audience is growing with us and as we have this dialectic relationship, is all of a sudden doing something from the American music theater canon make sense in our identity, our brand, and our mission. It's not a run out. It's not a trap, I can't wait to see Caesar on stage.
Me too.
And until then, thank you, everybody. That was another episode of On Deck with Maestro with the one and only Josh Shaw and the lovely Julia Lieberman behind the camera. Julia will edit, we'll cut out the dumb stuff, and hopefully we will release that pretty soon on YouTube. If you live here in Santa Barbara, you don't already have tickets to Caesar and Cleopatra playing at the Lobero on February 27th and March the 1st. Get yours now. There's probably going to be a link in the comments. Not many tickets left, so hurry up and hope to see you there.